which has made the achievement described in Upadeshamrita possible, even for neophytes, at least to begin the process and chart their course in alignment with that final destination. The appearance of Radha Kunda is predicated by another appearance last night, which was Aristashura. Because Keshi and Arista were appointed by Kamsa to spy on Krishna. Because Kamsa was suspecting that all the mighty Rakshasas, who have inconceivable powers, were one by one coming to Braj and not returning to Kamsa, telling him the news that he wanted to hear, that they had killed Krishna. So Kamsa deputed Keshi and Arista to spy on Krishna and see if he was indeed the one dispatching these mighty Rakshasas to the abode of Yamaraj. When Keshi returned, while searching for Krishna, he saw Srimati Radharani. And he immediately returned to Kamsa and told him that this girl is so beautiful that she should be yours. Much like Shriparnika reporting to Ravana about the beauty of Sita. So Kamsa was ready to invade Braj with all his mighty army, but Keshi advised him, why don't you send Shankachura instead to kidnap Radha during Rasa Lila? Which he did, which resulted in his demise. And then Kamsa sent Arista, who arrived last night, to initiate the series of events leading into the appearance of Radha Kunda. So it was dusk, and Krishna was trying to extinguish the flames in Vishaka's heart, which was threatening to disrupt a well-planned Rasa Lila, which they have every night during Kartik. When suddenly, looming over the sky, the landscape of Braja, this dark silhouette of a monster whose back loomed high into the sky. It was a bull. Clouds hovering around the hump on his back, and his tail swishing ferociously was stirring the clouds into thunderstorms. So a very peaceful Kartik evening, suddenly threatened by this looming demoniac figure, and thunderstorms followed by roaring and bellowing and tremors in the earth like an earthquake as he stomped the ground. And then the gopis told Krishna, go investigate and take care of this challenge. So Krishna proceeded, flanked by his bravest of gopas, and he told Arista, because he was already tearing up the fences, destroying the dikes, pawing the ground, making huge pits. And Krishna challenged him, what are you doing? And the cows are having miscarriages, as are the gopis. What are you doing? Terrorizing the inhabitants of Braja. But I am here to protect them and destroy miscreants like you. And that infuriated Arista. He began pawing the earth like an angry bull does. And then Krishna slapped his arms, tightened his sash, as a declaration of war, which infuriated Arista almost to the max, but to heighten his fury to perfection, Krishna just casually rested his arm and head on Subal's shoulder. And that was too much. Arista lowered his head, pointed his horns straight at Krishna, and Krishna's most fearless gopas all deserted him in the line of fire as Arista charged. Krishna grabbed him by the horns, stepped him backwards 18 steps, sat him on his rump, which infuriated him all the more. He got up and charged again. Krishna grabbed him, kicked him to the ground, and like a washerman wringing out a wet cloth and also pulling out his horn, clobbering it with him, it appeared that Krishna killed him, but really he didn't, because Yamaraj knew it would not be pleasing to Krishna to have to kill the bull. So Yamaraj invisibly intervened, killed Arista, who was still liberated because he died in the presence of Krishna. Now, what's not known in most of the story is that Krishna took it very seriously that he had killed a bull. So he immediately took his bath in Lalita Kund, which holds all the holy waters in all of creation. So he actually did atone. It's important to know before the next series of accusations follow. So there was no Rasa Leela that night, because when word spread about this wonderful victory, there was celebrations all night in Krishna's wonderful pastimes of that day. So by this evening, Krishna was more eager than ever for Rasa Leela. So he called the gopis, each individually, personally by name, with his flute. They assembled near Govardhan, actually right here. And Krishna reached out to take Srimati's hand, and she recoiled. And she said, "Don't touch me, O sinful killer of a bull." He wasn't expecting this kind of reception. So he defended himself. How can you equate my heroic protection of the Brijavasis, including you, with the heinous act of killing a bull? So he thought he cleared himself and reached out again to take her hand, and she slapped him, slapped his hand away. You know, at first he thought she was just being coy, as she is so prone to do, but then he saw that this is serious. You cannot touch us now because you are contaminated by the sin of killing a bull. So Krishna at this point is becoming somewhat submissive. What do I have to do? She said, you have to travel to all the holy places in creation and take your bath in all the holy waters. Krishna says, that's absurd. I don't want to do that. I'll just bring them all here. Now, he was still in a chivalrous mood from the night before. So he did something he wouldn't ordinarily do. He stomped the earth hard, and with his heel created a large impoundment. And then like a wizard making this strange gesture as if to summon some unseen object out of midair, he called all the holy places of all those tirthas that he was supposed to visit. And they all started gurgling up from the earth of Braj Bhumi, entering his kund and filling it with their holy waters. Then those personified holy places took their human forms, surrounding the Kund, chanting Purusha Sukta. Krishna entered the water, took his holy bath, emerged, dressed himself in fine new cloth, and became more arrogant than ever. And he told the gopis, now, I am pure, but you cannot associate with me, because you are all contaminated, because you sided with a demon in your accusations against me. But I can correct that. I can offer you atonement by bathing in my pond. And Srimati spiced it. She said, no, 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 no. I cannot bathe in your Kund because it is contaminated because you took your bath there. So we will make our own Kund, which will become world-renowned, even more beautiful than yours. And she scoped the surrounding landscape, and she saw that where Arista had pawed up the earth before his charge, he had already begun an impoundment. So she told her Sakis and Manjaris, get to work. And Srimati Radharani, with her own lotus hands, began excavating Radha Kund. All the gopis followed suit, but it was too slow for Lalita, so she broke her bangle and used it like a spade. All the gopis followed suit, and in no time they had excavated this impoundment. And feeling very proud of themselves, Krishna responded, that's a beautiful impoundment, but where's the water? You can take water from my lake. He said, no, 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 no. That water is contaminated because you took your bath there. We will bring our own water in billions of golden pots, milk pots, from Manasaganga. They made a bucket brigade. And they actually started filling Radha Kund with the water from Manasaganga. But then something happened, very consistent with Damodar Leela and Mother Yashoda. When Krishna saw perspiration on the forehead of his beloved, due to her intense effort to fulfill an important pastime for his pleasure, her effort is grace. It's a pastime of grace, and its success. It's the combination of Krishna's grace. So when Krishna saw instructed his foremost disciples, the 6 Goswamis, to describe the science of devotional service. To Sanatana Goswami, Mahaprabhu instructed to reveal the science of sadhana bhakti, regulated devotional service, and its relation to spontaneous love. To reveal Krishna Lila both in its manifest and unmanifest forms, as he did in Hari Bhakti Vilas and Brihad Bhagavatamrita. To Srila Rupa Goswami, Mahaprabhu instructed, reveal the intricacies in the science of rasa through Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And to Raghunath Das Goswami, because these are the acharyas of Sambandha, Abhidaya, Prayojana. To Raghunath Das Goswami, the detailed process of how a sadhaka enters into the mellows of Raganuga Bhakti, spontaneous love, characteristic of Braj. Now Raghunath Das Goswami had assimilated what Swarup Damodar taught him. Raghunath Das Goswami spent more time in the association of Mahaprabhu than any of the other Goswamis. Both witnessing Mahaprabhu's Leela in Jagannath Puri and hearing from the Bengali devotees when they came for Rath Yatra about Mahaprabhu's childhood pastimes, and personal instruction in the shelter of Swarup Damodar. And Mahaprabhu gave him the instruction when Raghunath Das Goswami asked, I don't know, I have taken the renounced order of life. What is my mission, my purpose, my duty? And Mahaprabhu responded with an instruction appropriate for all of us. Do not speak like people in general and do not hear what they have to say. This means no gramyakata. Do not expect honor, but offer all respects to others. In other words, be humble. Always chant the holy name of Krishna. And within your heart, always meditate internally on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, while acting strictly according to the principles of Vaidhi Bhakti, even when you attain the Raganuga stage, which he forever was, Raghunath Das Goswami. But through him, Mahaprabhu is instructing us. And therefore, Kaviraj Goswami, the intimate companion and disciple of Raghunath Das Goswami, described his regulative principles as lines in stone that never varied. He was so strict. He's eternally on the Raganuga stage, but he's acting so strictly in his sadhana for our benefit. Raghunath Das Goswami, the eternal resident of Radha Kunda, taught by both literary and practical examples, and he instructed very clearly that to those who think that they can enter into spontaneous love of Krishna without achieving perfection in the regulative principles and Vaishnava conduct, they're an illusion, and should take heed of the example of Raghunath Das Goswami. So Raghunath Das Goswami wrote Manasiksha to instruct us how to control the mind. And that is prerequisite for his final work, Sri Vilapa Kushamanjali, which means a bouquet of lamentations. And there is a form of scripture in all traditions composed of lamentations, which is actually very important, because when we express our lamentations to Krishna, we're both turning to the solution to our lamentations, connecting and bonding with him, as well as hearing our own lamentations from a different perspective. And therefore, we have in Christianity the Psalms of David, which has one whole section, Lamentations, which is tremendously inspiring to Christians to hear. So in Vilapa Kushamanjali, which is a little esoteric, but there again, it's important to understand the nature of this perfection, however far we may be from it. And unless you feel agitated hearing Krishna's pastimes, or question the propriety of him performing these pastimes, we should hear submissively. And be very honest about our actual level of achievement. Raghunath Das Goswami, of course, you know, he left Jagannath Puri after the disappearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, followed by his object of shelter, Swarup Damodar. Then he took shelter of Gadadhar Pandit, but the fire of separation was burning too fiercely in his heart. And chanting Gauranga, Gauranga, he just entered into Tota Gopinath deity and disappeared. Bereft of the objects of his shelter, thinking that everyone I've clung to, like pillars, are falling like dominoes, he left Puri for Braja to commit suicide by jumping from a cliff on Govardhan Hill, which at the time was higher than it is now. When he reached Braj and paid his obeisances to Rupa and Sanatan, Krishna appeared to Sanatan Goswami in a dream and revealed to him that Raghunath is here to actually commit suicide. So Sanatan Goswami told him, I also wanted to commit suicide, throwing myself under the wheel of Jagannath's chariot. But Mahaprabhu told me if you could attain Krishna by committing suicide, I would have done it unlimited times. But that body is mine. I have so many things to do through your body. You cannot destroy your body, which is the temple of the Lord, in this way. So then, Sanatan Goswami affirmed the gift and explained why Lord Gauranga gave to Raghunath Das Goswami his two most cherished possessions, Govardhan Shila and Gunjamala, representing Krishna and Radha. And Sanatan Goswami explained to him that this means you are to be the steward of Radha Kunda and a resident of Govardhan. So he took up his residence there on the order of Sanatan Goswami. And Radha Kunda became his shelter. And he would converse with her intimately, and she would respond. So in his Vilapa Kushamanjali, this garland of lamentation is offered to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna for their pleasure and for the benefit of the devotees. First verse, he's speaking as a siddha, Rati Manjari, known as Tulsi Manjari amongst her close friends. So he's speaking in his siddha form, as Rati Manjari, addressing his guru, who is Rupa Manjari, the leader and guru of all the Manjaris. And she's asking Rupa Manjari how perplexing this is, that although you're known as the most chaste lady, that somehow your lips are red. How can this be? Disposes the immaculate purity of the enters life for Radha. Krishna. By the envelopes. His meditation.